God damn it, why the hell did I ever think they'd choose me? What a joke. My name's Sarah Monroe, CEO by day, disappointment by family standards. This isn't a sob story. It's the truth behind what happened when my ex got engaged to my sister. My dad disowned me, and then accidentally handed me the power to destroy their perfect little show. I didn't even have to lift a finger. I'm 34, and I live in Charleston, South Carolina, a place known for its pastel houses, cobblestone streets, and picture-perfect sunsets. But I rarely have time for sunsets. As the CEO of a biomedical tech startup, my days revolve around emails, investor calls, and crisis meetings. To outsiders, I'm too successful to need a family. But inside my family, I'm just too busy to care. For years, I believed that if I just worked hard enough, they'd finally see me. I covered Mom's medical bills when she didn't have insurance. I paid the utility bills for 2 straight years while my younger brother was unemployed. I even canceled a huge pitch in New York to make it home in time for Dad's birthday dinner. But they never mentioned my name at family gatherings. They only ever bragged about my younger sister, who just got promoted at a law firm. Me, I was the silent one. No makeup, no fancy clothes, and definitely not the kind of daughter you introduce with pride. The shock hit me on a Monday morning. I had just wrapped up a major strategy meeting with our board. When I checked my phone, I saw 47 missed calls. From Mom, Dad, my sister, and even Michael, my ex. The guy I broke up with 3 months ago because he couldn't handle a woman married to her job. The last text from Mom read, "Sarah, have you seen the news? Michael's getting engaged to your sister. Come home. We need to talk." I let out a dry laugh, not because it was funny, but because I couldn't decide whether to cry or scream. My sister? The same sister who once cried to me saying, "I can't believe Michael would do this to you." And my parents? They knew this was happening? I dropped the phone onto my desk and stared out the foggy window, and all I could think was, do I seriously still matter to them at all? Or am I just a footnote in their perfectly staged family photo? That afternoon, I met up with Elena, my best friend from college, at our favorite little cafe on King Street. "You okay?" she asked, her voice soft like she already knew the answer. "I honestly don't know," I said. "It feels like I just lost my whole family, and none of them even realize it." She sipped her coffee, then looked at me. "Sarah, maybe it's time you stop waiting to be seen and start seeing yourself." I used to think I was strong, but right then I felt everything. Anger, confusion, sadness, and oddly enough, relief. Like a knot that had been choking me for years had finally come undone. The next morning I called my dad. I just wanted to ask what the hell was going on. His voice came through, calm but cold. "Sarah, it's best if you don't come home this time. Everything's going smoothly. You showing up might just make things awkward. What would you do if your own family asked you not to come home, just to keep things comfortable for everyone else? Have you ever felt shut out by the people who are supposed to love you most? Share your story in the comments." I stared at the phone in my hand long after the call ended. His words replayed in my head, cold and sharp like a slap in the face. You showing up might just make things awkward. Awkward for who? For them. For my sister's engagement party to my ex-boyfriend? For the neighbors they were trying to impress? I felt like the air had been knocked out of me. My own father, who I'd bailed out financially more times than I could count, had just told me, flat out, not to come home. Not because he was worried about my schedule, not because the house was full, but because my existence was inconvenient. I sat down on the edge of my bed, the silence in my apartment suddenly so loud it rang in my ears. I looked around at the room I had worked so hard to build. My own space, filled with soft light, framed art, a faint smell of lavender from the candle I forgot to blow out. And in that moment, all of it felt hollow. I wasn't crying. I wasn't even shaking. I was just still. Did I really just get uninvited from my own family? I thought about the dinners I'd skipped flights for, the holidays I'd rearranged meetings around, the times I said yes when I should have said I can't. And for what? I called my mom a few minutes later. No answer. Then I texted her. Hey, can we talk? Dad just said I shouldn't come home. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then her reply came in. Sweetheart, it's not personal. We just don't want drama. Claire's engagement is a big moment. Let's just keep things peaceful. Not personal? Not personal. I nearly laughed. That hollow, stunned kind of laugh you let out when nothing makes sense anymore. Later that evening, I went for a walk. Just around the block, mindlessly. I passed a young couple on a porch, sipping wine, their dog lying at their feet. They looked so normal, so untouched by the kind of betrayal I was carrying like an anchor on my chest. I wanted to scream, but instead I called Elena again. She picked up on the second ring. Talk to me. I told her everything. The call, the text, the line that broke me. Let's just keep things peaceful. There was silence on the other end for a second. Then she said, Sarah, this isn't about peace. It's about control. You didn't ruin anything. They did. I feel like I'm the villain in a story I didn't even write, I said. Then maybe it's time, she said gently, to stop playing the extra in their lives and start starring in your own. That night, I sat at my desk and pulled up my banking app. My hands were steady, but my heart? My heart was cracking open. If I'm not welcome, then neither is my money. I canceled the autopay for my parents' electricity, then water, then internet. One by one, like cutting strings tied too tightly around my ribs. No message, no warning. Just silence. The same silence they'd given me for years. And for the first time in my life, I felt it. Not guilt, not sadness. Freedom. Have you ever reached a moment where silence said more than words ever could? When enough was finally enough? If you've been there, drop a comment below. You're not alone. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. Not because of an alarm. I just couldn't sleep. I sat by the kitchen window, my coffee growing cold in my hands as I stared out into the empty street. Charleston was quiet at that hour. Just the soft hum of sprinklers and a few birds arguing in a nearby tree. But my mind was anything but quiet. It had only been a few hours since I'd canceled the payments, but I already knew what was coming. My parents were used to things just working. They'd never once asked who paid what or how. Just assumed everything would be taken care of, like magic. At 9:07 a.m., my phone buzzed. Mom. Sarah, the Wi-Fi is down. Can you check with the provider? At 9:10, Dad. No water this morning. I need you to fix it. Call the company. No, hi. No, how are you? No mention of the phone call where I'd been told not to come home. Just instructions. Like always. I didn't reply. I just stared at the messages, feeling a strange kind of calm wash over me, like I was watching an old play I'd seen too many times before, except now I finally knew how it ended. Then, at 9:35, Claire. Sarah, Mom's freaking out. We have guests coming today and nothing is working. Please handle it. Handle it. Handle. Like I was still the family's invisible tech support. Or emergency wallet. Or emotional punching bag. I started typing a reply. Fingers moving fast, fueled by every suppressed word I'd swallowed for the last 10 years. 3 days ago, Dad told me not to come home. That my presence would ruin the party. So I'm doing exactly what he asked. If this is inconvenient, maybe next time find someone you're not ashamed to introduce. But I didn't send it. I deleted the whole thing. Not because I changed my mind, but because I didn't need to explain myself anymore. Not to them. That evening, I sat on my balcony with a cup of peppermint tea, letting the cool spring air wrap around me like a quiet reassurance. And then, one more message. Claire, voice memo. Mom's been crying all day. Liam's here. The house is a mess. Everything's ruined. You knew this would happen, didn't you? You're so selfish, Sarah. I listened to it all the way through, then turned off my phone. For years, I hadn't been selfish enough. Now? Maybe it was time. I opened my laptop, meaning to distract myself with work, but a subject line caught my eye. New hire transfer, Liam Prescott, New Jersey office to Charleston HQ. My heart stopped for a second. I clicked it open, read through the profile. Liam, Claire's Liam, my ex, now my subordinate. His name, photo, position, all there in black and white. He was transferring to our office. And guess who had to approve it? Me. The universe really had a sense of humor. 6 months ago, I'd met him briefly at a conference. He shook my hand and called me co-founder Warren, but I didn't connect the dots. Why would I? I never cared enough about Claire's personal life to bother. But now, life had written a perfect little twist, and all I had to do was sit back and watch it unfold. I didn't need revenge. I didn't even need to say a word. I just smiled, signed off on the transfer, and whispered to myself, let's see how awkward things really get. The day Liam arrived at the office, the air felt oddly electric. Not because of nerves, at least not mine, but because I knew something was about to shift. I was in my office, going over quarterly financial reports, when a soft knock tapped on the door. I glanced up casually, and there he was. Liam. Same clean-cut look, same crisp navy suit, same I've got everything under control face. Except this time, he didn't. His eyes landed on mine, and froze. Sarah? He said, voice barely above a whisper. He wasn't smiling. I leaned back in my chair, completely calm. Welcome to Charleston HQ, I said. I'll be reviewing your transition plan personally. Let's make sure it's a smooth start. His face drained. He looked at the folder in his hands like he suddenly didn't know what to do with it. Then back at me. Wait, you run this place? I gave a faint smile. Co-founder, but I thought you already knew that. He didn't answer, just slowly walked over and placed the folder on my desk like he was handing over a resignation letter. I didn't know, he muttered. Claire never told me. Not surprising, I said, flipping open the folder. No one in my family ever asked what I actually do. They just assumed I handled emails or whatever. Liam stood there, silent, like a man who just realized he walked into the wrong house, one where the door locked behind him. You'll be reporting to me, I added, still flipping through the documents. I expect everything to be finalized by Friday. He gave a small nod, turned, and walked out without another word. I closed the folder and leaned back in my chair. I wasn't angry. I wasn't smug. I just felt done. Like the curtain had finally dropped on a play I never agreed to be in. And the timing? Almost poetic. Because that same afternoon, Claire was throwing her official engagement party at my parents' house. Family, friends, distant relatives, everyone would be there, ready to raise glasses and post perfect pictures. And Liam? He was supposed to be the shining centerpiece. Except now he knew. Now he knew exactly who I was. And he had to face the fact that the woman he was marrying, my sister, had tried to erase a piece of me just to keep her narrative tidy. I didn't need to show up at that party. I didn't need to crash it, make a scene, or say a word. Because the moment Liam walked into that house after our meeting, truth walked in with him. I didn't hear anything that night. No texts, no calls, no dramatic voicemails, just silence. Which only meant one thing. The bomb had gone off. I imagined the moment Liam walked into that living room, where the lights were probably still flickering from the unpaid electric bill, the guests sipping wine awkwardly in the dark, and told everyone who I really was. Not just Sarah, the older sister, not just the difficult one, but Sarah Monroe, co-founder, CEO, and Liam's boss. Around 10 p.m., my phone lit up. A new email. Subject line: Apology and goodbye. From Liam Prescott. I hesitated, then opened it. Sarah, I couldn't sleep. I've been thinking about everything that happened, and honestly, I feel like a fool. What happened at the party probably shouldn't have happened that way, but it made something very clear about Claire, about your family, and about you. I'm ending things with Claire. I can't be in a relationship where respect is conditional. I admire how you handled all of it, with dignity and silence. That takes strength. I just wanted to say, I see you now. Liam. I stared at the message for a long time. Not because I was shocked, but because for the first time, someone had finally seen it all, without me having to explain, justify, or beg to be understood. I replied simply, Liam, you don't owe me an apology. We're all responsible for how we choose to see people. Don't worry. I never mix personal life with business. But I do hope this experience taught you something. Sometimes silence isn't weakness. It's power. Sarah. The next morning, the sky was unusually clear. I walked to work with a sense of stillness in my chest. Not heavy, not empty, just still. But peace never lasts long in my world. At 8:12 a.m., I got a message from Claire. Claire. Sarah, please, talk to Liam. He misunderstood everything. I didn't reply. At 8:19, Claire. You're his boss. Say something. He'll listen to you. I stared at the screen, breathing slow, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. So now I mattered? Now that her perfect image had a crack in it? I typed back. Liam didn't leave because of anything I said. He left because of who you are. And maybe, for the first time, he finally saw it. No emojis, no sugarcoating, just the truth. Something no one in my family ever bothered to face until now. I sat my phone down, stepped outside, and felt the wind move through my hair. No noise, no weight, no pretending. For once, I wasn't the one holding everyone together. And I wasn't sorry for it. Have you ever stopped fixing things just to see what would fall apart on its own? What happened when you finally let go? Drop your story below. Someone out there needs to know they're not alone. A week passed. No more texts from Claire. No more voicemails begging me to fix it. No surprise. Her crisis management strategy had always been emotional outsourcing. I spent that Sunday morning doing something I hadn't done in years. Absolutely nothing. No laptop, no Zoom meetings, no guilt gnawing at the edges of my peace. Just me, a hot latte, and an old jazz playlist playing softly in the background. And then, the doorbell rang. I wasn't expecting anyone. For a second, I thought maybe it was Elena dropping by unannounced, as she sometimes did with scones and unsolicited wisdom. But when I peeked through the peephole, it was them, my parents. Mom holding a small paper bag, Dad standing stiffly, arms crossed, his usual, I'm not here to apologize posture locked in place. I opened the door without saying a word. Hi, honey, Mom said, her voice cracked and tired. Can we come in for a bit? I stepped aside. No hugs, no greetings. Just silence stretching from the front door to the living room. They sat down on the couch, their eyes scanning my apartment like they were seeing it for the first time. Simple, clean, comfortable, completely untouched by them. I poured 2 glasses of water, placed them gently on the table, then sat across from them. Dad was the first to speak. About your mom's birthday, he began, not quite meeting my eyes. I said some things I probably shouldn't have. I stayed silent, just nodded slightly, letting him continue. Maybe we've been a little hard on you. Maybe? I nearly laughed. Then Mom jumped in, voice trembling with forced calm. Claire's been a mess since the breakup, and well, we've been thinking. You're doing well now, stable job, everything in order. So we had a proposal. She pulled a folded sheet from the bag and slid it across the table like a business transaction. It was a printed spreadsheet. A monthly contribution request. $2,000 for basic living costs, insurance, and retirement planning. My chest didn't tighten. My hands didn't shake. I just looked up at them and asked plainly, "What about Claire?" "She's not in a good place right now," Mom said quickly. "She's struggling, emotionally, financially. We can't pressure her." I let out a soft, tired laugh. Not bitter, just familiar. Same old story. I straightened up and said calmly, "If Claire agrees to contribute $1,000, and if you both agree to sign a legal contract stating that when you pass, all assets, including the house, go to me, I'll consider it." The silence that followed was thick enough to choke on. Dad's face turned red. "You're giving us conditions now?" "Not conditions," I replied. "Boundaries. I raised you for over 20 years, and now you want paperwork to help your own parents?" I didn't blink. If raising me was an investment, then I guess this is the return on equity conversation. I'm just making it official. Mom looked between us, her hand gripping the armrest tightly. "Maybe we should talk it over." But Dad stood abruptly, knocking the water glass slightly. "We're done here," he snapped. Unbelievable. I walked them to the door. No hugs, no apologies, just like always. The moment the door clicked shut behind them, I felt it. Not guilt, not sadness, just a soft, steady breath of freedom. This time I didn't bend, I didn't chase, I didn't save. I just let them walk away. After that day, I never heard from them again. No follow-up messages, no apology, not even a passive-aggressive email asking if I had time to think things through. Just silence. But this time, it wasn't the kind that made me feel forgotten. It was the kind that finally felt like peace. I went on living. Quiet mornings with coffee. Long strategy meetings that stretched past sunset. Investor calls where I no longer felt like I had something to prove. And slowly, without fanfare, without anyone noticing, I stopped feeling guilty. I stopped sending holiday texts to a family that only responded with requests. I stopped saving Claire's birthday in my calendar. I even changed my phone wallpaper, from an old family photo to a shot I took of the ocean one early morning, waves crashing unapologetically against the shore. Because that's who I was becoming. Unapologetic. Still soft. Still kind. But no longer bending just to be kept. One afternoon during a team meeting, Liam walked in with a finalized investment report. He had settled into his role as head of finance with quiet professionalism. He never brought up Claire, not once, and I respected him for that. Some truths don't need to be recycled in conversation. Once seen, they don't need to be explained. Later that day, I stopped by a cafe I used to love before life got too heavy. I chose a window seat, latte in hand, and for the first time in a while, I let myself breathe. On the wall near the counter, someone had painted a quote in soft cursive. "Home is not always a place. Sometimes, it's a decision." I read it twice. That was it. That was everything. There was a time I believed if I just stayed quiet enough, helpful enough, invisible enough, I'd earn a seat at the table. But I now know, if you let people get used to disrespecting you, they'll start seeing your sacrifices as obligations, and your silence as agreement. I didn't walk away from my family because I stopped loving them. I walked away because I started loving myself. That love didn't scream. It didn't throw plates or write angry letters. It just closed the door softly and turned the lock from the inside. So, if you're reading this, and you've ever felt like the outsider in your own home, the one who's always there when others fall apart, but never quite enough to be celebrated, I want you to know something. You don't owe your silence. You don't owe your peace. And you are not selfish for wanting to be seen. You're just finally asking for the kind of love you've given to everyone else.